Police in the UK says the final death toll from the Grenfell Tower fire may not be known for many months, most likely till the end of the year. The vast majority of those who died were said to be in 23 of the North Kensington building's 129 flats. The Deputy Superintendent of Police, Fiona McCormack, explains that the full toll from the fire will only be known when the search and recovery operation is over. He also says some of the residents had tried to move up the building to escape the flames, and it is thought a number of people ended up in one flat. Earlier today, British Prime Minister Theresa May answered questions about the incident in the House of Commons.
Wider issues, as the House will recognise, and it is important that we are careful in how we talk about this, because there is a criminal investigation taking place, and it's important that we allow the police to do that criminal investigation and take the decisions that they need to take. But there is a much wider issue here, as we have seen from the number of buildings where the cladding has failed the combustibility test, from those samples that have been sent in already from local authorities and housing associations. This is a much wider issue. It's an issue that has been continuing for many years, for decades, in terms of cladding being put up in buildings. There are real questions as to how this has happened, why it's happened, and how we can ensure that it doesn't happen in the future.
British Prime Minister Theresa May. Qatar has condemned Saudi Arabia's refusal to discuss negotiating the 13 demands made against the Gulf nation last Friday. Saudi Arabia has led the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain and Egypt in accusing Qatar of aiding terrorism and severing ties with it. Qatar has denied the accusations, but the restrictions from these countries have caused turmoil in the oil-rich nation. U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, who's waded into the crisis to resolve it, says some of the demands made will be very difficult for Qatar to meet, but that there were significant areas which provide a basis for ongoing dialogue. And for more sports stories, here's Ayotunde Balogun.
Many thanks, Millicent. The newly elected boards into the various national sports federations are now to be inaugurated on Monday, July the 10th, at the National Stadium in Abuja, the nation's capital. The event, slated for July the 13th, that's on Thursday, was brought back by 3 days to enable the new boards prepare for the major competitions like the World Athletics Championships and the Commonwealth Games. The Ministry of Youth and Sports Development said hearing of petitions and appeals arising from the elections continues till tomorrow, while a formal statement on findings and decisions will be made public on Friday. The Nigerian Football Federation, the NFF, has announced the title sponsors for the country's cup competition, the Federation Cup. Now, the Federation Cup, Nigeria's longest-running football tournament, will now be known as ITO Cup, and the sponsorship is for 5 years. Officials said the title sponsorship deal is worth 300 million naira, with the winners of the male version clinching a prize money of 25 million and the female getting 10 million naira. Plateau United has beaten neighbours Nasarawa United by a goal to nil to remain top of the Nigeria Professional Football League table. Emmanuel James scored from the penalty spot to give the Just outfit a 5-point lead over second-placed MFM. Champions Rangers needed an Ifeanyi Matthews strike to edge Oriental rivals FC Ifeanyi Uba. Kano Pillars forced ABS to a 1-1 draw in Ilorin. Victor Mboma scored twice as struggling Remo Stars held Akwa United to a thrilling draw. Eyimba dismantled El Kanemi Warriors 4-0, with Chinonso Okonkwo scoring a brace. Gombe United, Wiki Tourists and Katsina United all earned vital points. Prosecutors have announced criminal charges against 6 people, including ex-police chiefs, over the 1989 Hillsborough football stadium crash in which 96 fans died, Britain's worst sporting disaster. The victims, all Liverpool supporters, died on an overcrowded fenced-in enclosure at the Hillsborough Stadium in Sheffield, Northern England, during an FA Cup semi-final between Liverpool and Nottingham Forest. The most high-profile defendant is former police chief superintendent David Duckenfield, who was in charge of police operations at Hillsborough on the day of the disaster. Defending champion Andy Murray has been confirmed as the top seed for this year's edition of Wimbledon, with Novak Djokovic, Roger Federer and Rafa Nadal completing the top 4 in that order. The men's seedings are not done entirely on ranking, but as reigning champion, it's no surprise that Murray is seeded top. Stan Wawrinka, who was knocked out in the second round last year, completes the top 5. Murray claimed a memorable second title at the All England Club last year by beating Miller's Raonic in the final. Meanwhile, in the women's singles, Angelique Kerber has been seeded number 1 ahead of Russia's Simona Halep and Czech Republic's Karolina Pliskova in that order. The seeding is made based on the rankings, with most players moving up 1 place owing to Serena Williams' absence from the tour. British number 1 Joanna Konta has been given the 6th seeding for this year's edition. Venus Williams also makes the top 10. And that's a wrap on sports news. The news at 10 continues in a moment.
Former governor of Taraba State, Dambaba Sentai, has died. Mr. Sentai is reported to have died in the United States, where he was undergoing rehabilitation from brain injuries sustained from a plane crash in 2012. His death was confirmed by the Senior Special Assistant to Governor Darius Ishaku on Public Affairs, Mr. Emmanuel Bello. The late governor was in the company of his 5 aides who died when the aircraft, a Cessna 208 aircraft, crashed in Yola, Adamawa State. And the main news again. The federal government today declared Nigeria free of meningitis. The Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Adewale, after the Federal Executive Council meeting, also announced that the country is polio-free. Some self-acclaimed Biafra loyalists today demanded a referendum to enable them choose whether to remain in the country. In their hundreds, the youths converged on Afar Road, Umuahia, Abia State capital, demanding justice and equity. And the Venezuelan Supreme Court has been hit with a grenade attack by suspected terrorists. Authorities say no casualties recorded, but investigations are ongoing to fish out perpetrators. And that's a wrap on the news at 10 tonight. Many thanks for being a part of it. I'm Millicent from Walker. Have a good night.